Digital sensors are configured on the device configuration screen by clicking on the Digital Pod Configuration button. This action produces a digital pod configuration window that allows you to manage CAN channel definitions, select sources for CAN ports 1, 2, and the serial port, and enable reception of data from a connected GPS sensor. Clicking on the Manage CAN Channel Definitions button produces a configuration window that allows you to select and manage channel definitions in DBC files. In this window, you can browse and select a DBC file, load the file into TCS, display a list of all DBC files that have been loaded, and perform various editing operations on the file. Note, however, that file operations such as new list, and delete selected are functions not currently implemented in this window, and therefore appear grayed out. When configuring one of the CAN ports for a wheel force transducer, you must first load the associated DBC file into the CAN Manage window prior to configuring the wheel force. This will be explained more fully when we get to the wheel force configuration. CAN port sources are selected from a drop-down menu. The available sources are J1939, wheel force, and ISO-CAN. After making a selection, a baud rate drop-down is displayed along with a button to access the configuration options for the chosen source, and a checkbox to enable silent mode, which disables acknowledgement messages from being sent when CAN data is received. The proper baud rate setting for each port is dependent on the chosen CAN source. The Configure J1939 button produces a configuration window that allows you to load an existing DBC file, select or delete channel definitions, edit channel field values, or define additional channels through manual entry. To load an existing DBC file, click on the Load from DBC File button and navigate to the location of the desired file, and then select and open the file. When the DBC file is displayed, clicking on a column header allows you to sort the list forwards or backwards as defined by the column header type. To edit any element in the file, double-click on the desired cell and make the edit, and then hit Enter. Invalid entries are identified by a red icon on the left side, and the program will not allow you to continue until the invalid entry is corrected. Built-in tools simplify making selections from a large table of channel definitions. You can quickly select and delete unwanted definitions, or select and crop only the required definitions. You can use the Shift key to select a group of contiguous channels, or, using the Control key, make non-contiguous island selections. Once selections have been made, use the Crop, Delete, or Toggle Highlight buttons to complete the configuration. An Undo button allows you to undo the last action. To manually add a channel definition, scroll to the bottom of the list and use the row marked with an asterisk to enter the data. For more information on manual data entry, consult the TCS User Manual. After channel assignments are complete, clicking on the Close box enters the assignments into TCS and returns you to the Configuration Digital Pod window. The Configure WFT button produces a configuration window that allows you to assign channels to individual wheel force elements. Using the CAN list drop-down in the upper right corner, select the desired DBC file for the wheel force transducer. Listings that appear in this drop-down are loaded into TCS from the Manage CAN Channel Definitions window shown earlier. If the channel names in the selected DBC file match the field names in TCS, clicking on the Auto Assign Channels button will automatically map the proper channels to all wheels, eliminating the need for individual assignments. If any wheel force channel needs to be manually assigned or changed, select an alternate DBC file if needed, and then use the drop-down menu for the corresponding channel and make the new assignment. The Use Wheel checkboxes allow you to quickly enable or disable any wheel. After all channel assignments are complete, clicking on the Close box enters the assignments into TCS and returns you to the Configuration Digital Pod window. The Configure ISO CAN button produces a configuration window that allows you to assign engine control unit, or ECU channels. Up to 10 ECU channels can be assigned. ISO CAN is a request-based protocol, meaning that you must define the channels that the digital pod will request and how frequently it issues requests. A reasonable request rate for most cars is 10 Hz, which is the default setting here. However, your system may be able to handle more frequent requests, resulting in more data points. Use the request rate field in the top left of the window to adjust the rate. TCS comes with several predefined channels from the list of Standard Perimeter Identifiers, or PIDs. Not all cars will implement all channels, but the list is provided as a starting point for creating tests with ISO CAN. Click on the drop-down in the slot you wish to use and select from the list. To define a custom channel, click on the Add Custom Channel button. The new ISO CAN channel window allows you to specify all of the components that make up an ISO CAN channel. For more information on creating custom channels, consult the TCS user manual. To assign a custom channel to a slot, switch to Custom Channels in the CAN list dropdown, and then make a selection in the slot dropdown. After all channel assignments are complete, clicking on the Close box enters the assignments into TCS and returns you to the Configure Digital Pod window. To enable GPS, click on the Enable GPS checkbox. This enables the digital pod's GPS port to accept data from a Garmin LX18X 5 Hz sensor. To enable pulse per second, or PPS functionality, click on the Enable PPS checkbox. This enables the GPS port to accept pulse per second data from the Garmin sensor. Serial port sources are selected from a drop-down menu in the serial port pane. The serial port supports the connection for an inertial measurement unit device, also known as an IMU. The digital pod supports the Lord Microstrain Model 3DM GX3 IMU device, a triaxial accelerometer, gyro, and magnetometer sensor. For this particular device, the default baud rate setting is fixed at 115/200. Which is why this field appears grayed out. After completing all digital pod configurations, clicking on the Close box returns you to the device configuration screen. When using a digital pod, be sure to set the scan rate to at least as high as the highest CAN channel rate in use. Consult the factory for more information. To enable the digital pod for the test, check the Enable checkbox. When this box is checked, TCS sets up the communication parameters for the digital pod and adds information fields to the device configuration screen. The fields are populated when you connect to the Titan device. With the digital pod enabled, the selected configuration parameters appear in the runtime environment while scanning or locally recording, allowing you to monitor the parameters as numerical or graphical data. After completing the test, save the data by switching to the export screen and select the test file to export. By default, the GPS, CAN, wheel force, and IMU data is automatically included in the export file. This concludes the digital pod configuration video. For more information on digital pod configuration and setups, consult the TCS user manual.